Hi. Almost everyone watches me without a subscription. Please support my channel with a subscription. I try for you. Thank you.
Story 1. My husband cheated on and abandoned me pregnant and is trying to make me feel guilty. I found out my husband had been cheating on me last Valentine's Day when I was 6 months pregnant. He's in the Navy and was in training in FL. I flew out to spend the week with him and he was acting weird. I asked to see his phone and he tried to tell me it wasn't healthy and that his therapist told him that we shouldn't do that. Well, I've never done that to him, but he had admitted to doing it to me and then tried to accuse me of cheating even though he found absolutely no evidence that I ever cheated. He brought up an old text thread he saw from a guy that I'd met in a bar while out with GFs about 1 week after we made our relationship official, but we still weren't engaged or married. I was confused because I had no memory of this and had to dig back in my texts to find what he was talking about. The text exchange was over and done in 1 day and we never talked again. The content of the exchange consisted of talking about a podcast, my girlfriend's dating woes, and then I mentioned what an amazing boyfriend I had and was thankful not to be having the same problems as my friends. I never cheated on him or even came close. Anyway, fast forward a few months and here we are in the Airbnb and I'm asking for the phone. I tell him that he looked at mine behind my back, plus GPS tracking me without my knowledge for months before I found out, and I don't care what the therapist says, I deserve to know the truth. He hands me the phone and then tries to yank it back before I see anything. I take off and lock myself in the bathroom. I start seeing Insta messages, Snapchat messages to other women. He's trying to get in the bathroom the whole time. I'm not that strong and can't continue holding him back, so I put the phone in my pants and open the door. I tell him I don't have the phone and he can look for it in the bathroom. While he's looking, I take off running in the middle of the night in a neighborhood I don't know, 6 months pregnant and devastated. He was DMing over 20 different women, telling them how beautiful they were, etc. I found saved snaps where he exchanged addresses with some girl as well as sending her a video of himself masturbating and bunch of other pics of him shirtless, post yoga bod for you, etc. text attached. There was a thread with another girl on Snap of them taking photos together at a bar with a bunch of heart emojis over the pic. They weren't kissing or anything and I didn't see sexual stuff or addresses exchanged here, but it still made me question if this was just another chick he was hooking up with while I was pregnant and alone trying to prepare for our daughter across the country. He drove back to his barracks to remotely wipe his phone while I was still finding more evidence of his infidelity. Obviously, I was devastated and upset, but he'd been pulling away for a while before this happened, so I'd had my suspicions up to that point and I had already really been struggling emotionally dealing with that. Not to mention, I already have a PTSD diagnosis from long-term abuse, which I'm not getting into the details of, but as soon as we got married he told me I had to give him details about the abuse I went through because I was his wife now. I joked that if that was the case then we could get a divorce. Over some months he wouldn't let this go and would interrogate me about details until he was screaming and I was crying. At this point I was already in my 2nd trimester with my daughter and I caved and gave him some details hoping that would be the end of it. It was not. If any of you are familiar with PTSD, forcing someone to disclose details against their will can set your recovery back a ton, so I started having nightmares again, migraines, intense anxiety, etc. One got so bad that I had to go to the ER because I was throwing up and urinating on myself from the pain of the migraine. I don't have any family nearby or parents really, source of me PTSD, so I called the next person who I felt safe with to take me to the ER, and that happened to be my ex of 4 years. Husband knows about this friendship and was uncomfortable with it at first, but seemed to get over it when I explained that our relationship was basically sexless and we parted amicably because I wanted kids and he'd had 3 already with tubes tied. He and his family kind of adopted me because of the situation with my family, plus I help him raise 2 teenagers. His oldest was in college out of state by this point. Fast forward again, my daughter is 9 months old. In a couple days our final divorce hearing is this Friday. He lost legal custody in the last hearing. He didn't show up, but his lawyer did, and he got a liberal step-up plan for visitation. He's now stationed in CT, and I'm in CA, so it's going to be tough to exercise visitation. I went through periods of intense anger towards him, and I told him he couldn't see his daughter without a court order, although I took that back and invited him to visit for her first Christmas, so he hasn't been back to see her since she was born. I should also mention that he told me the Navy was requiring a paternity test for our daughter since we weren't going to be together anymore. He told me this less than 48 hours after I gave birth. I went into an emotional tailspin after he told me that. The nurses almost wanted to keep me in postpartum recovery for an extra day. I sent an angry email regarding the matter to his chief and told husband to stay away from us until he got his paternity results. He kept messaging and telling me that he was in CA to visit her, he had taken paternity leave to visit her, and he was 99.9% sure she was his, but he just wanted to be sure. I started feeling guilty because I know without a doubt that he's her father, so I let him visit. Things were going well until my daughter was 11 days old, and he decided to go out partying with his friends in town because they wanted to celebrate him becoming a father. I wouldn't have known about it, but I tried to call/text him to say goodnight to baby since he was staying at a friend's and not with us at night, and he took about 3 hours to respond. I was pissed. I had already felt abandoned, not just me but also our daughter, and he had the audacity to go out partying to celebrate becoming a father when he wasn't even going to be there to help us. Anyway, I gave him a little hell for it, and he came back to visit a couple days later. Before he came, I told him no more showering at my place or taking care of personal hygiene. He was doing this before. If he's coming over, he's there to help and spend time with baby, and that's it. Well, he was giving me attitude and complaining when he came over, so I asked him why he thought everything would be honky-dory after what he put me through, the lies, the cheating, the verbal/emotional abuse. He got defensive and started telling me my family told him I'd be an unfit mother. He kept repeating it when he saw how upset it made me with my daughter still on my chest from breastfeeding. I had a pelvic problem during the latter half of my pregnancy and was still having difficulty walking or getting up from a seated or laying position. My helplessness infuriated me even more. I told him to get out of my house, so after having to repeat several times and raise my voice, he left, but also forgot his wallet, which I didn't realize at the time. I blocked him on my phone immediately after he left, so he had his friends call and text me about it, which also upset me further. I told them to fuck off, and if he came back to the house, I'd be calling the police on him. I didn't need the man that abandoned and cheated on me pregnant causing me further stress with my newborn. I needed tranquility and peace. I figured I'd go drop his wallet off at the base later. He didn't need or deserve an explanation from me. So I went to my appointment that day, which he knew about, and drove to drop it off at the base after. I get home and my roommate informs me that husband sent police to my house to pick up the wallet and claimed that I pretended to not be home. Later on that day, I get a call from CPS claiming general neglect of my newborn infant, less than 2 weeks old. CPS opens a case on me. I was again devastated. Nothing ended up happening, and a lawyer advised me not to allow them access to my home without a court order, but it was awful just to have to talk to them about this and to be accused of neglecting my baby that I dedicated every waking and barely sleeping moment to. Needless to say, I haven't been thrilled about the prospect of co-parenting with this guy, but he's guilt-tripping me for not doing video calls, sending photos, etc., and telling him he couldn't visit for Thanksgiving, even though I told him he could visit her for her first Christmas and I offered to help him finance the trip. He decided to take his limited resources and leave days to vacation with his friends and family for 2 weeks in FL and blamed me for not wanting to come until he gets a court order. He had previously stated he couldn't come because of money, place to stay, etc. I don't know what to do. I don't trust him alone with the baby. Doing calls and sending pics feels so forced and is bad for me emotionally. I've tried it. I want to stop being snarky with him, but I'm still so mad, and the fact that he hasn't really apologized for everything he put me through has me on edge. There's so much more to the story, but I think this post has gone on long enough for now. Edit. Court was today for the paternity hearing. He tried to paint me as a complete whore, which is fine. The judge let the visitation orders stand as they are, even though apparently paternity has not been established in the court's mind. The reasoning was that we never lived together. You guys, I can't even begin to describe how horrible this man has been to me. The stuff he said in court was beyond all comprehension. I chose not to waste the court's time with a lengthy rebuttal of all the lies and half-truths he presented. We should have paternity results in a month. I guess I'm just kind of shocked how long the judge let him bloviate with utter nonsense that didn't even have anything to do with paternity. He said that his family was also waiting for paternity results. Weird. He's been giving all these guilt trips about his family not being able to see her, yet they have my contact information. This is the very first time I've heard anything about his family also questioning paternity. His mom and sisters were at my baby shower, which took place after I found out about his cheating. Jesus, I'm upset right now. If there was ever a person with two faces, this guy would be the poster child. I've responded to almost everyone's comments/questions giving more backstory and reasoning for my stance. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to read all this and offer thoughtful responses/advice. Referred to her best friend as her bride. She asked if her dad knows, and I said yes. She was hurt. Said that she has been planning coming out for so long that was riddled by anxiety every time she tried to speak to me or her dad about it, and that I should have told her that I knew, so she could skip all the near anxiety attacks. I said that there was always a chance I could be wrong, or that she could be bi or pan, and in the end, she is a separate person and her sexuality is not my business. I told her I love her so much that this changes nothing, and I will welcome any partner of hers. She nodded with the head, but started crying and went to her room. I finished the cake, but she went out that night with her friends instead. I saved the cake in the fridge, waited for her to come home, but when she arrived, went straight to her room. Today, she left for school, barely saying good morning to me. I don't know if I was too cold, too distant, or whatever. Something is wrong here, and I don't know if it is me. Update: hello, I'm back here. Last night I spoke to my daughter. She was still very emotional, but she allowed me to speak to her. I apologized for my response. I told her I was sorry, that I understood it was a big moment for her, and I wanted her to know that I will always love her. She said was sorry for acting out, but I told her she had nothing to apologize for. We had a long talk. She opened up about her fears. She was trying to not be so obviously queer because some kids at her school are awful against queer kids. Knowing that she is very obviously gay spiked her fears. I apologized again, and I will talk to the school administrators as soon as I can. I need to protect my daughter. She spoke about her anxiety issues. After the talk she was calmer, but I'm worried about her. I think she might have an anxiety disorder. I'll book her a psychologist for that. She agreed to go to a psychologist. She also said that she loved me and was glad that I supported her. I told everything to her dad. He also spoke to her to say more or less the same I did, and will take her to the movies tomorrow. Thank you all, mostly to the queer people telling their experiences in the comments. Relevant comments. Your mother's buttocks commented. The last thing I would have wanted was my mom saying, "Honey, I know you're a lesbian," when I was a baby gay before I've had the chance to vocalize it, and while every kid is different, you absolutely were not wrong for not saying something sooner. I don't think you were the asshole in your response. You didn't say "I know" snidely. You were loving and accepting, as you should be. She's processing lots of things here, and that's okay. When you're anxious about coming out, it can be a big comfort to know you're hiding your secret well, and nobody knows what you're anxious about people knowing about you. You took that sense of security and stomped it. When someone is out and proud, "You have gay" written all over your face can be an amazing affirmation. What your daughter heard was you're terrible at hiding this, and everyone you meet immediately knows you're a lesbian. OOP replied. Oh, seeing it from that perspective, I feel terrible. Am not sure how out of the closet she is. Am very sure her friends know and maybe are queer themselves, but she might have reasons to be in the closet with other people. I'll wait until she is ready to talk to address that. Upfate, hello. My daughter came out as lesbians a few days ago. I already knew, and gotta admit, I messed up a bit because she was trying to hide her queerness, but turns out it's pretty obvious, yet I will support her in whatever she needs. I want to compensate her for the messy coming out, and I was thinking about giving her something pride-related or specifically lesbian. I need some advice because I have no idea what to buy that is not a rainbow flag. To be clear, I like the rainbow flag, but I think it's too obvious and I want her to know that I did put some thought into it. And finally, why so many lesbian subs are NSFW? This is the third lesbian sub I visit and the first SFW one. I also apologize for the flare choice. I had no idea what to click. I want to throw her a surprise party this weekend. I bought a rainbow flag, a lesbian flag. I also bought some pins, a pride-themed crop top, boots, wrist wraps, nail polish, eyeliner, a few posters, and got everything to make a lesbian-colored cake. I tried to find everything fitting her overall style and taste. I also bought a little desk pride flag to have at my bakery next to the cash register. I play to hang a flag on the kitchen, wait for her to come downstairs on the morning, and say, "Hey honey, do you have something to tell me about? Something you wanted to tell me for a while." I don't know if these would be the right words, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. She is smart, so I hope she catches the idea and come out again. Then I will hug her, tell her I love her, and give her the presents. My husband helped me buy everything. I want some opinions to know if I'm doing it right or if I'm being too overbearing. Update: I did wrong, assuming people would just look at my profile and read my previous posts. So in the post about my daughter coming out, many were worried that she wasn't out yet, and I was forcibly outing her. No, she was already out and I messed up everything. Second, I was also wrong by saying party when referring to do a second coming out. My intention was never to do some big celebration with people and music, just give my daughter a cake, present, and try to make her redo that "Mom, I'm a lesbian" moment in our kitchen. Now, for the update. After reading the comments, I decided to downscale, to not be so overwhelming. I had a cake ready with the lesbian flag colors. I just waited for her to come down and say, "Hey honey, I did a cake, do you want some?" She said yes and came into the kitchen, but then she saw the colors, started to freak out a bit, but she was smiling and saying, "OMG Mom, thank you." Cried a little and hugged me. Then I pulled the pride flags from under the sink, and she was like, "Mom, this is too much, you didn't have to." I let her have her moment and said nothing. After she calmed down, started to take pictures of everything, but she posted nothing on social media. I don't know if she just kept it for herself or sent them to a friend. We ate the cake, then she went to her bedroom. She is okay. I will give her the other presents over the days, one by one. I'm glad she was okay with it. As I said before, I suspect she might have an anxiety disorder, so I'm kinda walking on eggshells until we can go to a psychologist and I can have specific advice on what to do. Thank you all. I come back if I need some more advice.
Please subscribe, leave comments, rate videos, and click the bell not to miss my videos.